Hollywood trusted Roddy McDowall. He was polite, dependable, and so universally liked that no one ever imagined him as a threat. He smiled for the cameras, showed up on time, and quietly became one of the most familiar faces in the industry. But behind that gentle reputation was something no one saw coming. A private archive filled with hidden footage, rare films, and off-screen moments that were never meant to exist. So when the FBI pulled up to his home and hauled away more than 1,000 tapes, Hollywood didn't just panic, it went silent. Because whatever Roddy had been collecting wasn't just movies, it was secrets powerful people never wanted exposed. Roddy McDowall's story didn't begin in Hollywood. It began under falling bombs. In 1940, as London was being torn apart by air raids, Roddy was just 12 years old when his mother made a desperate choice. Britain was evacuating children by the millions, and she sent her family across the ocean, hoping America might offer safety and a future. His father stayed behind to fight. His mother arrived in New York alone with 2 children and a dream she'd never achieved herself. Roddy had already acted in more than a dozen British films, trained in speech, poetry, and performance since early childhood. None of it mattered when they stepped onto American soil with just $42 in their pockets. Day after day, she dragged Roddy from one talent office to the next, facing rejection after rejection. Then Fox Studios went searching for a child who didn't just sound British, but felt real. When director William Wyler saw Roddy's screen test, he knew instantly. This wasn't an actor pretending to understand war. This was a child who had escaped it. His first American role mirrored his real life, playing a boy helping someone flee Nazi-controlled Europe. But everything changed with how green was my valley. Fox rebuilt an entire Welsh village for the film, and when it beat Citizen Kane for Best Picture, Roddy was only 13 years old. The broke refugee kid became Hollywood's golden boy overnight. But behind the applause, a quiet truth was forming. Roddy wasn't just acting anymore. He was becoming the one everyone depended on. By the time Roddy McDowall was 16, his childhood was already over. While other teenagers worried about school dances and weekend plans, Roddy was supporting his entire family. He wasn't just acting anymore, he was the income. His weekly paychecks were massive for the time, and the pressure to keep working never stopped. Fox kept him busy 6 days a week, sometimes more. Long hours, constant rehearsals, and zero room for mistakes. There were no classmates, no close friend his own age, no normal teenage memories. Every smile was expected. Every performance had to land. Hollywood adored him, but also owned him. On screen, he played boys facing hardship with quiet strength, roles that comforted audiences during the war years. Off-screen, he was living that same weight in real time. Adults praised his professionalism, never questioning what it cost a kid to carry grown responsibilities. People assumed fame protected him. It didn't. It isolated him. And as his voice began to change and his face matured, everyone in Hollywood knew the same truth. Child stars didn't last forever. The question wasn't if Roddy would fade. It was whether he could outrun the image that made him famous before it swallowed him whole. Hollywood had already decided how Roddy McDowall was supposed to age, quietly, and then disappear. Child stars didn't grow up. They aged out, and Roddy knew it. So instead of fighting the label, he destroyed it on purpose. He stopped auditioning for safe roles and went straight toward discomfort. On Broadway, he took on a character inspired by a real-life crime. Cold, arrogant, and terrifyingly detached. Audiences who remembered the sweet boy from wartime dramas were stunned. There was no innocence left on stage. That was the point. The performance worked. Critics took him seriously for the first time as an adult. But when the story moved to film, Roddy was suddenly replaced without explanation. The message was clear. Hollywood liked his talent, but it still didn't trust him. Rather than retreat, he leaned in even harder. He followed with unsettling screen roles, playing characters that felt off, dangerous, and unpredictable. Then came Broadway again, this time as a villain who slowly dismantles an entire kingdom. Night after night, Roddy stood center stage, proving he wasn't a relic, he was a risk. By the end of the decade, the golden boy was gone. In his place was someone sharper, darker, and far more watchful. And that version of Roddy was just getting started. Roddy McDowall learned how Hollywood really worked on the most chaotic set in film history. Cleopatra was supposed to be the movie that crowned careers. Instead, it nearly destroyed the entire studio. The production spiraled out of control almost immediately. Runaway budgets, constant shutdowns, and scandals that leaked into headlines worldwide. Elizabeth Taylor nearly died during filming. Sets were built, scrapped, and rebuilt as millions burned away. By the time cameras finally rolled, Fox was bleeding money and executives were panicking. Behind the scenes, an affair between Taylor and Richard Burton exploded into a global obsession, drawing condemnation from politicians, religious leaders, and the press. Hollywood had never seen anything like it. Roddy watched all of it from close range. While chaos ruled the set, he stayed quiet, professional, and invisible. He showed up, hit his marks, and kept his opinions to himself. In a production filled with egos and meltdowns, his silence made him valuable. Cleopatra became the most expensive film ever made at the time, pushing Fox to the edge of collapse. And Roddy walked away with something far more important than box office numbers. He had seen how scandals were managed, how reputations were protected, and how quickly the industry turned on its own. That set taught him a rule he would never forget. Survival in Hollywood didn't belong to the loudest voice. It belonged to the one who knew when to stay quiet. Elizabeth Taylor thought she was just introducing two friends. She had no idea she was setting off the most dangerous chapter of Roddy McDowall's life. When he met Montgomery Clift, something shifted immediately. Clift wasn't just famous. He was magnetic, fragile, and already unraveling behind the scenes. At the time, Clift was being hailed as the future of Hollywood. Privately, he was fighting demons no one was allowed to name. Being openly gay in 1950s Hollywood wasn't risky. It was career-ending. One rumor, one photograph, and everything disappeared. Roddy knew that, and he didn't care. He moved to New York for no role, no contract, no plan, just to be close to Montgomery. For years, Roddy quietly stepped away from Hollywood, turning down work and isolating himself from the industry that had raised him. Their relationship stayed hidden, protected by silence and fear. When Montgomery abruptly ended things, it shattered Roddy. Friends later said he fell into a dark spiral he rarely spoke about and never explained publicly. But what stunned people most was what came next. Roddy forgave him almost immediately and stayed in his life, not as a lover, but as a protector. As Montgomery's health and career collapsed, Roddy was the one feeding him lines, shielding him from embarrassment and keeping him working. When Cliff died at just 45, many believed he wouldn't have lasted that long without Roddy quietly holding him together. Hollywood never knew the full story, and Roddy made sure it never would. Living in silence taught Roddy McDowall something most actors never learned. Secrets were currency. In a town where one rumor could erase a career overnight, trust was more valuable than fame. And Roddy became the safest place to put it. Publicly, he stayed invisible. No scandals, no public relationships, no loose ends. Privately, he built something Hollywood had never seen. His home became a refuge where stars could finally drop the performance. No reporters, no handlers, no fear of being exposed. At those gatherings, Roddy always had a camera. He filmed parties, dinners, beach days, and quiet conversations no one thought would ever matter. Actors laughed without polishing their image. They spoke freely. They lived like normal people for once. And Roddy recorded it all. The footage was risky. If released, careers would have ended instantly. But that was why people trusted him. He never sold it, never leaked it, never hinted at what he had. He locked it away and kept everyone's secrets buried alongside his own. Over time, Hollywood gave him a name, the Father Confessor, the man who knew everything and said nothing. But as his private archive grew larger and more valuable, it quietly crossed a line. And eventually, the wrong people noticed. By the early 1970s, Roddy McDowall was sitting on an archive bigger than some studios. Hundreds of films, rare prints Hollywood had abandoned, and thousands of tapes transferred to early video formats long before anyone thought preservation mattered. What studios threw away, Roddy saved. He believed he was rescuing cinema from being erased. Then, on December 18, 1974, the FBI showed up. Agents arrived with trucks and warrants, launching what became the largest film piracy raid the Bureau had ever carried out. They seized more than 160 film reels and over 1,000 videotapes from Roddy's home. Even prints of his own movies were taken. Overnight, the man known for protecting Hollywood's secrets was being investigated as a federal suspect. The accusation wasn't about hoarding, it was about copying and sharing. Authorities claimed Roddy had crossed the line from preservation into illegal distribution. The situation was explosive. Fighting the case risked dragging powerful names into court. Losing meant surrendering everything he'd spent decades protecting. So Roddy made a choice that haunted him. He cooperated. Names were given. Documents were redacted. Friends were quietly pulled into an investigation they never saw coming. In the end, no charges were filed. The case was dropped, but the damage couldn't be undone. After the raid, the party stopped. The movie nights ended, so people never came back. Roddy kept working, kept smiling, but something fundamental had cracked. The man who built his life on trust had survived, at the cost of never fully trusting himself again. After the raid, Roddy McDowall didn't disappear. He reinvented himself again, this time behind the lens. Long before the FBI ever knocked on his door, Roddy had been quietly photographing Hollywood in ways no one else could. And now, that camera became his shield. In 1966, he released Double Exposure, a photography book unlike anything before it. Instead of glossy publicity shots, it showed stars unguarded and human. Even more unusual, each celebrity was written about by another famous figure. Marlon Brando by James Baldwin. Katharine Hepburn writing about Lauren Bacall. It wasn't gossip, it was trust in print. The book was a massive success and cemented Roddy as one of the most trusted figures in the industry. Stars let him photograph them without makeup, without handlers, without control. They did it because he had never betrayed anyone when it mattered. Later volumes went darker. He documented Judy Garland during her most fragile years, pairing raw images with honest accounts of how the studio system pushed her to the edge. He photographed pain Hollywood preferred to forget, not to exploit it, but to preserve the truth as he saw it. At the same time, Roddy quietly worked behind the scenes to protect film history itself, helping restore classic studios had once treated as disposable. What began as a private obsession slowly became public redemption. But even as he revealed more than ever before, Roddy was still holding something back. And what he chose to keep hidden would outlive him by generations. When Roddy McDowall died, he didn't just leave behind films and photographs. He left behind a vault. For decades, Roddy had kept personal diaries, private letters, home videos, and recordings documenting Hollywood's most unguarded moments. And before he passed, he handed all of it to a university with one chilling condition. No one was allowed to open it until 2098, 100 years after his death. Archivists were stunned. That kind of restriction is almost unheard of. The implication was unsettling. Whatever those pages and tapes contained, Roddy believed the people mentioned needed to be long gone before the truth could surface. Over the years, speculation has grown. Some say the archive includes first-hand accounts of marriages falling apart behind closed doors. Others believe it documents how studios quietly managed illnesses, addictions, and scandals the public was never meant to know about. There are rumors of footage showing beloved stars at their most vulnerable, moments that would have rewritten Hollywood history if released too soon. One diary entry is rumored to exist in particular, describing the darkest night of Roddy's life after a devastating heartbreak. If it was written, it remains sealed, locked away with everything else. Roddy spent his life collecting secrets and protecting them, and in the end, he made sure time itself would be the only thing allowed to expose the truth. The vault remains closed. The stories remain untold, and whatever Hollywood thought it buried forever is still waiting, quietly, for a future none of us will ever see. Roddy McDowall was never just an actor. He was a witness. He saw Hollywood at its most powerful and its most fragile, when careers were protected, scandals were buried, and silence meant survival. While others chased attention, Roddy collected moments, the kind never meant for the public. He recorded joy, collapse, loyalty, and betrayal, then locked it all away. Not to expose anyone, but to protect them. Even when it cost him friendships, reputation, and peace of mind, he stayed true to one rule: never break trust while people were still alive to be hurt by it. In the end, he chose time over truth. A sealed vault instead of tell-all. A century of silence instead of instant revelation. Whatever waits inside that archive, Roddy believed the world wasn't ready for it yet. Hollywood's golden age is remembered as glamorous and untouchable. But somewhere in a locked room, the unfiltered version still exists, untouched, unread, and counting down the years.